Chapter 6. I don't know what came over me right then. I had been so afraid, so terrified, but it was like something just snapped in my head. I couldn't just hide and watch. I couldn't. "You filthy!" I jumped to my feet. I snatched up a piece of rusted iron pipe from the ground and started to climb over that wall. I guess I just went crazy or something. It had to be craziness, because there was no way that I alone, armed with a piece of pipe, was going to accomplish anything.
"No!"
The Andalite's silent cry made me hesitate. I felt Marco's hands grabbing at my shirt and pulling me back. Tobias and Marco held me down. Rachel put her hand over my mouth. I was trying to scream or curse or something.
"Shut up, you idiot!"
Marco hissed.
"You're just going to get us all killed!"
"Jake, don't." Cassie put her hand on my cheek. "He doesn't want you to die for him. Don't you realize? He's dying for us." I shoved Marco and Tobias away angrily, but I was in control of myself again. I peeked over the wall again. The Andalite prince was helpless in the grasp of Visser III. I saw him held high in the air. I saw Visser III open his monstrous, gaping jaws. I saw the Andalite fall into that open mouth. The mouth closed. The teeth ripped the Andalite apart. And the Andalite prince, Elfangor Serenial Shamtal, died. At the very end, he cried out. His cry of despair was in our heads. His cry will always be in our heads. The Hork-Bajir controllers began making a huffing sound, like wuh, wuh, wuh. Maybe they were laughing or applauding. The Taxan controllers rushed forward and crowded around Visser III. They seemed to be stretching up toward him, and then I saw why. A piece of the Andalite fell from the Visser's jaws, and the nearest Taxan greedily gobbled it up. Tobias turned away and covered his face with his hands. Cassie had tears streaming from her eyes. So did I. I heard a sound that was strange, because it was so normal. It was laughter. Human laughter. The humans, the human controllers, because that's what they were laughing. Like they were at some kind of a show. For a moment it seemed to me that one of those laughing voices was familiar, like I'd heard it before. But then the sound was swallowed up in the huffing of the Hork-Bajir. Visser III morphed out of his monstrous form and slowly regained his Andalite body. I heard him think.
"Nothing like a good Antarian bogmorph for taking a bite out of your enemies."
Again the human controllers laughed, and the Hork-Bajir controllers huffed, and I heard a familiar human laugh I could not quite place. Marco started throwing up. It was an understandable thing to do, but somehow that sound caught the attention of the nearest Hork-Bajir. The snake head turned. He was perfectly still. We were perfectly still. The Hork-Bajir turned toward us. The nearsighted eyes were aimed directly at our little hiding place. I don't know who panicked first. Maybe it was me. Maybe we just had all the fear and horror we could stand. It was like an electric shock went through all of us. We were running before I had a chance to even know what I was doing. I ran. I gasped for air. A cry went up from the Hork-Bajir. "Split up!" I yelled. "They can't follow all of us!" Marco and Tobias and Cassie took off in 3 different directions. Rachel was still right beside me. Glancing back, I saw the Hork-Bajir hesitate, unsure of who to chase. Rachel and I are the fastest runners. Tobias is totally out of shape, and Marco and Cassie are too short to be really fast. So I figured if the aliens were going to chase anyone, it ought to be us. I guess Rachel thought the same thing. She slowed down just a little and began yelling and waving her arms. Come on, you... And then she said some words I didn't realize Rachel even knew. The 2 nearest Hork-Bajir snapped around and took off after us.
Flash, here. Flash fit. Enemy. Get.
Even in my panic, it surprised me. They were talking some mix of their own alien language and ours.
Flash fit Nahar. I get. I kill.
I ran. Suddenly my foot slammed something and I was down. I hit the ground hard. The wind was knocked out of me. I tried to fill my lungs again. Rachel ran on. She didn't know I had fallen. A spear of red light struck a concrete pipe just beside me. The concrete vaporized. The 2 Hork-Bajir were coming after us, bounding like some devil kangaroos. I was up and running. Rachel must have realized I wasn't with her anymore. She stopped and started to come back toward me. "Don't be an idiot!" I yelled. "Run!" She hesitated just a second, but she knew she couldn't do anything more for me. She ran. I saw a dark hole ahead and raced toward it. A doorway. Inside it was as black as a grave. It was one of the buildings that had almost been completed. Just bare concrete walls and scattered junk. But I knew I had been in here before. Marco and I had walked all through it. There were hallways and little side rooms. It was like a maze. Marco, Rachel, had they gotten away? And what about Cassie and Tobias? I tried to get my brain to concentrate as I scurried across the first big room. There was a corridor, somewhere. I groped in the dark and found a wall. I heard the sound of claw-like feet, huge, tearing, rending claw feet scraping over the bare concrete. A bottle went skittering across the floor. The Hork-Butcher was close, and in the total darkness my superior human vision wasn't much use. But I knew my way around the empty building. At least, I would have known my way around if my brain had been working. I felt my hand go into emptiness. A doorway. Yes! It led down a hallway. I went through just as the light came on behind me. Someone had brought a flashlight.
Whatever order.
No. No need to capture them. Whoever you find, kill.
The first voice had been Hork-Butcher. The second voice was human. And the weird thing was, that voice sounded familiar. I tried to think. I knew I'd heard that voice somewhere. Where? Where?
Just save the head,
the human told the Hork-Butcher.
Bring that to me, and we can identify it.
I slid quickly along the wall. The light followed just steps behind me. I racked my brains. Had there been a passageway? Yes, there it was. As silently as I could, I slipped into it. The flashlight beam was just inches behind me. I kicked something soft.
Hey!
It was a man. He had been lying on the ground wrapped in a blanket.
Hey, get out of here! This is my place, and I ain't got nothing for you to steal.
I started to warn him, but one of the Hork-Butcher was there. The flashlight landed on the homeless man's face. He blinked like an owl. There was an alcove right behind me. I backed through. The homeless guy screamed. I heard the sound of a scuffle. Maybe the guy got away. I hope so. But I never found out. Because with the Hork-Butcher distracted, I ran. I ran and ran and ran. And as I ran, I really hoped it was all just a dream.